Good evening. God, I'm live and I never even noticed. Good evening and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. This evening, everything should be fine now. We've done a complete reboot of the system. Just to make sure that everything is fine. And it's telling us the strength and everything is hunky-dory. Stream health is excellent this time. Good. Right, let's get back to where we were. The good thing is, when you think about Celtic, is that we have won the Champions League once. We have won the title 55 times. We've won the Scottish Cup 42 times. And we've won the League Cup Winners' Cup 22 times. Celtic Park, with a stadium capacity of 60,441 seats, makes it the biggest stadium in Scotland. 72%. The squad, that's an interesting one. 33 players are in the squad, and there are 17 national team players in the squad also. The average age of this current Celtic team is 26.7 years, and there's 72.7% foreigners in the team, in the squad. 24 foreigners in the squad, and we were talking earlier about players. Yeah, it must have been something like that, mate. We were talking about the players that could be given another option of another year next year. A lot of people were saying, we started off with James Forrest, 34-year-old, born in 1991, 7th of July 1991. What were you doing in 1991? July 1991. There's every chance that I would have been in a field at an illegal rave somewhere. In fact, wasn't there one? There wasn't one in Cumnock that year. Might have been one in Cumnock that year, 1991. So yeah, what were you doing in 1991? Not that I'm really interested, but would you give James Forrest? A lot of people say yes, give James Forrest the option of another year. He is only 34 years old. You know, he doesn't have to play every single game. I wasn't born in 1991. You were in your dad's sacks, as they say. Do we need 3 homegrown player rule in the starting 11 in domestic matches? I don't think that you would do. I'm not too sure about that. And no, I don't think that you do, because if you think about it, Rangers currently played a game and they never had one Scottish player in their team. There you go. Tony was on an oil sea rig in the North Sea. I was turning a teenager then. Staying in Chinatown. Resurrection in the Foo Bar, 1991. Resurrection in the Foo Bar in 1991. Resurrection was in Ingliston. Not the Foo Bar, mate. Resurrection was Edinburgh. In fact, 91 was it still in Newcastle then? Or had it moved to Edinburgh, Ingliston at that point? I think it had moved to Ingliston by that point. Sure it had. My mum and dad had moved into a new house in March 91. We spent a while digging up the back garden. Who did you bury in the back? You was in 3rd year of high school. Right, let's move on for that. I should just take things with a pinch of salt. But anyway, James Forrest, who was born in 1991, and I was definitely at Resurrection in 1991. I was definitely at a Raven in deep, dark Ayrshire, Cumnock way, around about that time as well, as many others around about the country. But James Forrest is the player that's been he's been around a while for Celtic. Is he worthwhile keeping for another year? And out of the players that are on the screen here that are out of contract, I mean, the only one that I really want to put money down on, that we're going to have to spend any money on, would be Julian Araujo. But is there any chance that that deal could happen? That's my worry. And it's obviously Sriracha. You would do the deal for Sriracha all day long. He's valued at 1 point. Yeah. Tony Cascarino was 1991. That was the year that I didn't watch a lot of Celtic, to be honest. 1991. White Doves were good then. White White Doves were good. That's all that was said. Let me just come off this screen a second while we just double check something and just to make sure it's all good. Stream is healthy. Perfect. It's all that I want to know. It'll be a quiet one tonight, I think. Change that again. I wasn't born. Right, let's start at the top. Julian Orocco, buy or sell? Julian Orocco, not sell. I mean, would you buy? Would you buy him? Would you buy Julian Orocco? Yes, I would. If there's a chance for a deal to be done there, I would definitely buy Julian Orocco. Junior Adamu, centre forward, £3.5 million, option to buy, €4 million. Not a chance. Do you know the crazy thing is Celtic might actually end up taking up the option to buy. Kelechi Iheanacho, do you give Kelechi Iheanacho another chance of he's got the club option of a year's deal, so it's not up to the player. Buy Sriracha all day long. Moonbase Alpha. Moonbase Alpha, Stephen. I went to Ayrshire once. It was shut. Buy Sriracha all day long, buys 1.5. Double Dunters Mitsubishi's. Oh yeah. What about Arthur? Benjamin Arthur. There is no option to buy there. He's on about he's on a 4 or 5 year deal with his current club. I just do Benjamin Arthur. Yeah, he's got a contract. His contract expires in 2031. I mean, I wonder how there is no option there, but I wonder if Celtic were to make an offer. It said that he's valued at 100 grand. I think that's ridiculous. I don't know. I mean, would he want to come back to Celtic? Came through the system at Peterborough, went to Brentford. Interesting one. I don't know if Celtic would put a. I mean, you would think he would be able to do a job in Scotland. Can Celtic get the deal done that would be suitable to them? He is on maybe get a year's loan on him. I don't know if he'll be a year's loan. No such as long term fit Iheanacho. Oh, that is the problem. Yeah. Sriracha in talks with the permanent deal. Yep, we have heard that one. That Sriracha's agent is in talks. A fit Iheanacho, he's still only 29. He is only 29-year-old, but he's the problem with him is the fact that he's never been a prolific goal scorer throughout his years. Now you could say like he's won things, he knows how to win things. He does have that for him. At a height, his valuation was worth around about 20 million, and how he's went away down to market value or nothing. Celtic picked him up on a freedom of contract. So no, it's what goes up must come down, as they say. He does have that option of a year. I think that Celtic would give Kelechi Iheanacho the option of another year, just for some stability, more than anything. How many games has he played? It's just his goals, isn't it? His stats, his goals. Let's get the full stats on kills. That's just the season stats. Hamstring, not in squad. I mean, look at that big pink section. That's when he wasn't in the squad. Do you mean he's been out missing? He's been out missing the majority of the season, hasn't he? He's been out since October. I mean, is that unfortunate? Hamstring injury, hamstring, not in squad, on the bench, and then not in squad. Came on for 6 minutes in the Falkirk game. It's not very convincing, though, is it? He would have to if there's an option of another year's contract with the likes of Kelechi, surely it has to come into some kind of negotiation of, you'll get another year if you play X amount of games. If not, we re-look at your contract. Because he's going to be, he's out of contract, you could say, so there surely has to be some room for negotiation to get him in on a cheaper wage and for him to prove himself. I don't know. What stability does Kelechi give? He's been missing for 90%, 60%. I think it's more than 60% of the time. I mean, the Premiership, his last game was the 19th of October last year. He was out with a hamstring. I don't know, so he's missed probably about 70-80% of the season. Easily. Anyway, that's another player that is out of contract. What about Junior Adamu? Now, Junior Adamu has scored a goal. He is only 24-year-old. Do you give Junior Adamu a year's contract? Can play in various positions. Is he worth the 3.3 million that he's allegedly worth? Can play in a varied number of positions, or do just Celtic go, nah, we'll leave that there, mate. You've not been good enough. He did score. Oh, for fuck's sake, seriously. I mean, he scored a nice little back healer. Can he do more next season? Kasper Kelechi's got history. Is that not unusual? I wanted in the actual 9 years ago. Well, 9 years too late. It's probably too late for him. Kel's on a pay-as-you-play. That would be a good one. A pay-as-you-play for him. If he wants to retain on the same salary that he's on, put him on, don't know, if you play 4 games a month, you get your 40 grand. 10 grand a game, though, that's a lot of money for a goal scorer. If he's not scoring goals, is it? Do you know, he needs to be banging in the goals to make that value for money. Right, that's done. Junior Adamu, Kelechi Iheanacho, we're kind of on the fence with that one. Junior Adamu, I think that we're saying no to him, to be fair. Tam the Czech, option to buy. What is the option to buy? He's allegedly worth around 2.5 million euros, according to Transfer Market. And he's only 25-year-old. He's not a striker. He's not a striker. If we go with Tam the Czech next year, Jesus. Getting a sore head just thinking about it. Maybe if we're going to use him as a winger, I would think about it then. He can play as a right winger. I mean, he's another player that hit a massive 12 million valuation. and his valuation's absolutely like disappeared in 2 years. You know, it's another player that's obviously, he must have been scoring goals or something at one point, but he doesn't. He's if you're going to go on stats, which Celtics do, um, I wouldn't give him another year's contract. Not a chance. I wouldn't take up the option to buy him. Marcelo Sarachi, yes, get that deal done all day long. Joe Mavuka, right midfielder, who came on for one game. Had one game. He's another one that his valuations went from 4.5 million. Now Celtic have obviously known for him for a while due to one of his previous clubs. But if he was really that good, why didn't Bodo Glimt keep a hold of him? That's the first thing that you're going to say. That's the first thing that came to my mind. I mean, I know he was sold for 5.5 million. But I mean, you look how hard that they try and keep players. So they must have thought, yeah, take 5.5 million for him all day long. Maybe it's just Celtic they don't like dealing with. And then he was actually loaned back to Bodo Glimt. Jesus. Anyway, he's now at Celtic, but and he's not very good. Let's be perfectly honest. He also has the option to buy in the summer, and I'm going to say I wouldn't take it up. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, he is the option of a further year, valued at 1.5 million. At height, he was valued at 20 odd million. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, who's won it all, has won the big one, the Champions League. He's won the English Premiership. What an ugly trophy that is, isn't it? English champion, and he's also won the English FA Cup. He's won the FIFA World Cup winner. You've got to say that's a big one, isn't it? The FIFA World Cup. That's a kind of thing. And he's won the UEFA Super Cup as well at his time at Liverpool. But the boy from Portsmouth, who said he didn't want to leave England, ended up leaving England. There was a lot of suggestion that he wouldn't come to Celtic because he wanted to stay down south beside his missus. Can play in varied number of positions. Seems to be excelling in the central midfield for his short time at Celtic. Once valued at £40 million. He also is 32-year-old, the same age as Callum McGregor. Oxlade went no engine. Buy a Rocco for 5 million. Would be an interesting one if we could get that deal done. Schmeichel, Oxlade-Chamberlain, Junior Adamu, Tam, not for me. Khan, everybody, Khan. That's what you want to do. It's an old one, isn't it? How many first team starters now would make the bench in a decent Celtic side? Oh, how many of these loan players at Celtic would make a good Celtic side? I'm going to say two. I'm going to say James Forrest, because he's been in those great Celtic sides over the years. And I would say Julian Araujo. And that would be it. You've got to say, okay, right, maybe a younger Oxlade-Chamberlain. Don't know, but at his age right now, no. Obviously, a younger Oxlade-Chamberlain would have been fantastic at Celtic. But I mean, so you could say that was three. I mean, would Sarachi get into... Is Sarachi better than Kieran Tierney? Some will say at this moment, yes. But when they were younger, was Sarachi better than Tierney? The stats would say no, due to the valuation of the player over the years. Now, he has won things over the years, but when the highest valuation that has been on the player has been 14 million euros. Kieran Tierney was sold for 25 million. I think if Kieran Tierney hadn't had so many injuries down at Arsenal, I think Arsenal would have sold him for a massive profit. I think if Kieran Tierney's career wasn't hampered by injuries, I definitely think that it would have been sold to a European club or another English Premiership club for a lot more than 25 million. So when you take in comparison, and if you look at the clubs, I mean, he went to Boca Juniors, Levante, Leipzig, without a club. Well, there you go. He was without a club in 2022. That's interesting. You know, so that puts him in similar territory to Oxlade-Chamberlain, except a lot younger. So that's never ideal when you're without a club, especially at the age that Marcelo Saracchi's at and has been. Interesting. So, would Saracchi get into a team of fantastic Celtic players? And I'm saying the only one that would be Julian Araujo and James Forrest out of the loan players that we have. Joe Movica, we said that we're not buying him. Oxlade-Chamberlain, a lot of people in the comments saying, on that list, except Forrest, I wish them all success in the transfer window. In other words, thanks, but no thanks. Would you not take Saracchi, mate? He's a good player to have as backup to Kieran Tierney. And that's all he's going to be. He's going to be back up to Kieran Tierney. Anyway, James Forrest, we keep him for another year. I'd say yes. Kasper Schmeichel, glad to see the back of Kasper, to be honest. Good goalkeeper. Nowhere near the level of Joe Hart, unfortunately. Came in, had a good run in his first year. Clean sheet Kasper, they were calling him. I think that was a lot to do with the defence in front of him as well. But nowhere near the humility or of Joe Hart. Joe Hart, even though he was only at Celtic the 2 years, will be remembered fondly as someone that talks up Celtic on an ongoing basis. Joe Hart, he loves the club. He was over in America doing some of the charity stuff with the Celtic Foundation. You're not travelling all the way to America to do charity stuff with the Celtic Foundation if you don't have a real love for the club. And Joe Hart's got that real love for the club. I couldn't see Kasper Schmeichel doing that, to be honest. I don't even think Kasper Schmeichel's even in the country anymore. The fact that he held Celtic with such disregard, and this will never be forgotten by the fans, and that's the difference between the two players, is that Joe Hart would walk over hot coals, broken glass to save a goal for Celtic. Kasper Schmeichel would hide the fact that he had an injury on his shoulder and play through the pain barrier, and ultimately he's a lot to answer for this season as well. Some of the goals that could have been saved if he'd put his left hand up instead of trying to dive to his left and save it with his right hand, and everybody's going, "What the hell? What? How could someone be so indecisive?" Your left hand's going to reach out further than what your right hand can, but you're trying to catch it with your right. He should have been hauled over the coals then and just punt it out the team, Kasper. And people won't forget that. People won't forget that he never told Martin O'Neill. He went on American television with his dad. "Oh, come on, son, I'll get you on television. You could tell the world that you've got an injury. Fuck Celtic." Fuck off. Oh, dear. That's Kasper Schmeichel for you, though. Anyway, I'm glad to see the back of him, to be honest. Benjamin Arthur, that is the interesting one. We don't have an option to buy Benji Arthur. Can play in both those positions at the back. A market value of 100 grand. seems to be wrong. But he only joined Brentford this last year, wasn't it? He joined Brentford. That's weird. That's his loan valuation, 100 grand. He's worth 1 point. He was bought for 1.1 million or thereabouts. Interesting. So that was his loan value. Right. Let's see what they're saying in the comments to that this evening. Casper will be back for his medical if we win for his medal if we win the league, then leave for good. Yeah, that's he's entitled to do that. You've got to say he's if we win anything, he'll not be here for the Scottish. I mean, will he be back? Will he be? He's out injured, so will he be at Ham? I don't want him anywhere near Hampden, to be honest. If we get to, I mean, we're going to Hampden anyway, but I don't think he'll be there. He'll be back in Denmark with his plug ugly trainers that the Danish all wear. Spanish ones are just as bad. Right, anyway, Casper will post your medal or tell you live on television. Yeah, that's the way we should do it. We'd sign Arthur if we could get him. His value is nearly 10 million, I think. It doesn't say that on transfer market, but it is interesting that valuations are all over the place, isn't it? Anyway, right, that's me done and dusted for this evening. My throat is still a bit from the weekend. Sarachi, Arojo, and Oxlade-Chamberlain, says Rab. Leaving out James Forrest. That's basically how it's panned out, Baz. Casper didn't even let the fans know about his injury. He went on a strop about the fan protests. Yes, he did. And says everything about this season, really, doesn't it? The attitude of one of your so-called more experienced players. Don't know. But anyway, he was only brought into the club because he was Brendan Rodgers' pal. If it wasn't for Brendan Rodgers, he would never be at the club. Anyway, that's me done and dusted for this evening. Thank you to everyone who has been on the live tonight, even though it was a sort of a second run along. Viewers are a bit lower than would have thought, but never mind. It's all good in the hood because we'll be back tomorrow morning because we're not going away anywhere. We don't do walking away. On that note, have an absolutely fantastic evening, Celtic fans, wherever you are all around the world.